Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We're taking another look at Sandbox. I know I covered this recently, but my community asked me to go ahead and cover it again based on the recent increase past the previous resistance. So we're in pretty good shape here. It's going to be likely open season, but we always want to look at all the indicators to see what's going on. So again, this is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Be sure to reference my Telegram community if you'd like to kind of get some more information, as well as my Patreon community if you want to get 3 to 5 signals per week, where I just share my entry points for my trades with my community, so you can all benefit from that as well. Currently have over an 85-90% success rate. Also, forgot to mention, this is for educational purposes only. You should always do your own research. I'm not a financial advisor, I just have years of trading experience, and my goal is to help you trade for a lifetime. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Sandbox. And before we do, we always look at Ethereum and Bitcoin first to get a baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on. So let's do a quick little look at the 4-hour chart for those and dive deeper into the update here, of course, for Sand. Now, I covered this a couple days ago, but I just like to make sure to kind of jump on there again because I do have a lot of my subscribers that are invested. So let's check it out. All right, so first thing we're going to look at is Bitcoin. And to clarify, we always use a 4-hour chart just to kind of summarize it's the best time frame for the moving averages. And the moving averages we use is the 200-day simple moving average and the 50. Okay, so the 200 is this purple line here, and the 50 is the orange line. Now the price is under the 50-day moving average and below the 200. It's tested the 50 pretty consistently, so if it keeps coming up, be expected to test and possibly reject for a few hours before it moves past. It has a history of testing about, 4 to 5 4-hour candle bars, so somewhere in the range of 16 to 20 hours on average. Okay, and when it breaks, it should break through pretty hard and fast like it does in the past. So we'll see, or it might reject and retrace because we are having lower highs and lower lows. Right? So these are not great signs for right now because they are getting lower and lower. Same with the lower lows. Okay, so that's just something to pay attention to. But that's kind of where we're at there. Big picture, we got 30,000 for support, 42,000 for resistance, and the most recent resistance is about 36,500. So it's safe to say there's a channel of about 36,000 and 42,000. That would essentially be the next major step up or leg up that we're looking for. Ethereum, major support, 1725, major resistance about 2,900. This resistance was tested about 10 times previously, so it could and will likely break if it's tested again. But we got a long ways off from that. Ethereum is basically the ugly stepchild for Bitcoin right now. It's not doing very well at all. Just comparative, to its past, it usually goes on bull runs when Bitcoin does poorly. Instead, it's just kind of going a whole lot of sideways right now. So not a lot of market capitalization increase for Ethereum. Volume and volatility are lower than usual. So just be mindful of that when you take entry on Ethereum. I'm no longer trading that, at least for a while, until it stabilizes and gets more volume. Okay. Let's take a look at Sandbox here. Okay. Now I did look at this a few days ago, right? So this is kind of an update on what's going on. When I looked at it last, it was coming up closer to about 53, 54 cents, and it just broke that major resistance. Now we're going to mark that here just based on the fact that that just happened. It's good to kind of keep that on the charts to see what's going on, because that is essentially likely a new support level, as long as we can get this candlestick to close above, right? So that's kind of the bottom line there. But the 1-day chart does tell us the price is over the 50 and the 200. RSI is likely up over 70 again. So again, the common rule of thumb, if you have an entry point or an open position, don't sell when the RSI is going up, sell when it's coming back down when it comes to the RSI being up over 70. Right now, we more so want to refer to that on the 4-hour chart, but the 1-day chart is also a good representation of kind of where the price action is. Okay, and obviously easier said than done, but when we look back here, right on this date here was a major convergence for the MACD. We'll just go ahead and throw that on the chart there. That is essentially when the MACD gave us a buy signal. So, in retrospect, those are good things to look for. MACD on the 1-day chart and the 1-day chart and the 4-hour chart, you want to look at these moving averages intersecting. In other words, when the 12 intersects with the 26 in upward fashion, that's considered a convergence, and that essentially allows for us to understand that there is a price action swinging in the bullish sentiment, right, in the bullish direction. Inverse also applies too. It comes down as well when it diverges as well. All right, so just something to note, keep that in your back pocket. 4-hour chart. Let's take a look at this guy here. So first of all, we tested the major resistance previously at 54 cents. We'll just say round number 54 cents. And that was tested 1, 2, 3 times, almost a fourth time. And then just recently, it was tested and rejected a fifth and broke above. So you'll see that happen. You know, the more often you kick a door, the more likely it's going to break, right? Obviously, steel doors are a different story, but a traditional door, you just keep on keeping on and just kick it in, it'll eventually break through, right? That's how resistances and support levels work. The more times they're tested, the more likely they're going to break. Okay. Now they're pretty strong, I would say, in the range of just say, 3 to 6 tests. If you test it anywhere in the range of 3 to 6 times, but usually anything above 5, for the most part, 5 or more are going to give you a breakthrough, of course. Now, every situation is different, but Sandbox obviously has some fundamentals here. A lot of other coins right now are doing very well when Bitcoin is kind of almost going sideways still. So keep that in mind. This is likely has some really good fundamentals. You want to probably do your own research on that. Looking at the RSI, we're still, well, we just creeped up over 70. So just pay attention. Again, not a sell signal, but just an indication of the fact that you want to pay attention and consider trimming your position or just holding onto your position and staying vigilant to see what happens next. Because I'm a firm believer in RSI being up over 70, waiting for it to come down instead of increasing is the best time to sell. And I'll give you an example of that here. It's almost always accurate. So take a look at this here. RSI picks up over 70, right? So right here, RSI is telling us we got a sell signal. Yeah, again, traditional sell signal. So had you sold right there, sure you would have made a profit based on depending on where you went, where you got in, obviously. But if you look at the RSI coming back down, say the RSI comes back down right here, even at this point, the very first time before it jumped up a second time, you would have hypothetically sold in this range here. Okay, so that's a big difference, right? That is a 28%, almost 30% increase in profit had you waited for the RSI to come down instead of selling immediately as soon as it crossed over 70. Okay, so again, the traditional sentiment of RSI crossing up over 70 and selling your position is not insanely accurate. It does help sometimes, obviously, if it just caps out at 70 and turns back around. But for the most part, when situations like this occur, you want to hold your position and wait for the RSI to start coming back down. Again, in retrospect, it would have been better to wait for it to come back down a second time because you probably would have got a second leg up, another extra 20%. You never truly know. But when the price comes down and tries to come back down below 70, that's typically a good indication of a sell signal. Okay? So that's kind of what I recommend watching out for. Now taking a look at the MACD, we did have a strong convergence here. You see the 12 intersecting with the 26. So we'll go ahead and mark that really quick. That was obviously right here. We'll go ahead and mark that. Now I like to mark these because I like to show the correlation between the Ichimoku cloud on the 1 hour chart and the 4 hour chart MACD. And they commonly coalesce and they work well together. And that gives you like a double confirmation to know you're on the right track. So pay attention to these things when you're trying to take entry. Obviously, it's easier said than done now because this happened, 12 hours ago? But it's important to identify what to look for moving forward. Furthermore, just to clarify, that's also where the price broke above the 52 moving average, or it's kind of, in essence, rejected off of it because it was only about 8 hours worth of time frame where it was below that time, or that average, so to speak. Okay, so just something to be mindful of. The price is above the 50 and the 200. And then we had a golden cross here, essentially where the price of the 50 was swinging upwards through the 200 in a upward fashion. All right, taking a look at the 1 hour. Now let's take a look here. First of all, turn off the moving averages because the SMA lines are only better, at least, or let me rephrase that. They are better only on the time frames larger than 4 hours, in my opinion. EMA lines are better on a time frame less than 1 hour. So I don't even use the EMA and SMA lines on the 1 hour chart. I primarily utilize this for the Ichimoku cloud. Let's take a look here. Perfect. Exactly. This happens almost every single time. And what I mean by that is the 4 hour chart, see how we marked the MACD on the 4 hour chart giving us a buy signal, right? I marked it right here. You're looking at the cloud. If you're new to the cloud, the Ichimoku cloud tells us when there's essentially a buy signal if it's above the cloud or a sell signal when it's below. Right, so hypothetically, you would have wanted to open a short position here and or a long position here. But if you look at that, that is no less than 2 hours later, the price continued to catapult upwards as a result of the MACD crossing on the 4 hour chart, as well as the Ichimoku cloud crossing on the 1 hour chart. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's something that is very, very consistent and it works phenomenally. I mean, look back here as well. Hours are a little bit off, but I marked that too, this little section. That would have been a good entry point on the MACD. And truth be told, the cloud kind of told us a few hours ahead of time that it's a good buy signal. Okay. All right, we'll take a quick peek at the TD sequential, kind of see if we have reached any type of, I guess you could say, exhaustion. Because the great thing about the TD sequential is it tells you when there's going to be a reversal. Okay, so we look at this here, just in retrospect. We got this consolidation period, and then it consolidated down to a 9. So you see how it's highlighted in green? That's kind of how this indicator does it. It kind of tells you that, hey, this is essentially a sign of a reversal. So we had 9 hours of consistent lower lows, essentially, or the price is lower in this case. What it does, it basically just looks back 4 hours in this case, or 4 bars back, to see if the bar was lower or higher. And if it's lower than the previous, then it's considered to be counting upwards. And if it's higher than the previous, if it goes up, it's the opposite. I'm not explaining that very well, I apologize, but the bottom line here is that when you see a 9, it tells you that there is a potential shift in momentum. So we got this 9 here, and then what? 5 hours later, the momentum shifted. So we got this, it was down, it started counting up from 1 right here, right? Obviously that's where it started to increase. It was 4 hours later right here than that one. It's 4 hours higher. That being said, we got the 1 through 9. So we see we hit a 9 up here as well. Okay, now we are in overtime, so to speak. So there's a strong chance that the price could retrace back down and start to sell off and come down and test the support level at about 54 cents. So it's great that it created a new, basically a new all-time high. I know there was previous all-time highs, don't get me wrong, but this is a most recent high, so to speak. And that allowed us to use this as a support level, right? So moving forward, we should expect the price to bounce off of the 54-cent range to ensure that we have some type of support. Okay, because when you're creating these higher highs and higher lows, sometimes it's uncharted territory, and the only thing you have to rely on is previous resistance and support levels, right? So if you look back here, let me turn off the TD sequential. You can see the previous all-time high, of course, is 90 cents, but the most recent high, again in the last that's 2 or 3 months, we're looking at the most recent high is 54 cents. Right? So that's why I marked that. Obviously, it was a previous support and resistance level too. You can see it was tested and rejected multiple times as well. So I would say that that's a pretty strong support that should hold as a support moving forward. If it breaks below, be prepared for the price to retrace and sell off further. Again, if Bitcoin can continue to go sideways or just up and sideways, so to speak, test 36,500, surpass that, go up to 42, we're going to see Sandbox likely test its previous all-time high and or secondary high of somewhere in the range of 75 to 80 cents, right in that range there. But again, the average true range for Sandbox is right about 41 to 70 cents, and we're creeping up closer to 70 cents at this point. So there's a strong chance that we're going to have another resistance level. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and mark that? It does look like 74 cents would be the next major resistance. So we got a lot of room for growth, of course, but just bear in mind it's increased a lot in the last couple of hours, so to speak. That means that we want to go sideways for a little while longer. Right? And again, the TD sequential told us on the 1 hour chart that we're looking at a retracement. So it'll probably go sideways, come down, bounce off 54 cents, and then likely try to increase again. Okay, but we would like to see a period of consolidation, something similar to this here, where it kind of goes over, comes down, and then bounces and returns up to closer to 70 cents. So that's kind of what we're hoping for there. So anyways, that's kind of what we're looking at. A lot of good signs here, a lot of good positive indications, but it makes sense as to why the price is coming down. In fact, why don't we go ahead and see why it's retracing? Just quickly peek at the EMA and VWAP. So you see the variance between the VWAP and the EMA line? Look at that, 25% between the volume weighted average price and the top of the price action. That's a really strong standard deviation. Therefore, it makes perfect sense as to why the price is going to come back down, because it was too high, too big for its britches, or whatever term you want to utilize in there. It's essentially way too far past the norm, because the VWAP is the volume weighted average price. It takes the volume the last 24 hours, expresses it as a price. So it's extremely high, too far away from the standard volume for Sandbox right now. So it's going to come back down. But as you can see, the price is over the EMA line, so it's a pretty strong bull run. So moving forward, I recommend waiting to take entry just based on the fact that we're likely going to retrace back to support. It should go sideways for now. I don't expect it to keep going much higher, just based on the fact that it increased really hard, really fast in the last 8 to 10 hours. Again, just be careful, be mindful, but it's obviously the bulls are still in control, so pay attention moving forward. The price comes down, if it tests and bounces off EMA, then it might be a consideration for taking entry. If it rejects and passes through the EMA, and then keeps progressing down, the next major milestone is the support level at 54 cents. How it responds to that will determine how you want to take entry. If it bounces off the support level and essentially stays above, then we want to hold it and keep it there. If it drops below, then we want to make sure to consider moving your sell stop up to just a few cents below that to ensure you're still profitable. Okay, because it could very well come down and just keep coming down. But there's a strong chance, I feel more stronger than not, for it to bounce off the support level here and to keep going sideways. All right, so that is kind of what we're looking at here for Sandbox. Thank you again for joining me. I know it's just kind of a quick update, but I would just recommend exercising caution. Make sure your stop limit is closer to 54 cents, just below, if you will, because when it breaks below and goes on a downward trend, most retracements occur about 40-50% of its original increase. So it could very well just keep dropping. If we see Bitcoin selling off hardcore and it goes back down, it starts retracing, finding lower lows and lower highs, then be prepared to see what happens with Sandbox. That could be a catalyst to push it down to retrace about that 40-50%. But if you found benefit, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, that's okay too. Feel free to reference my Telegram community, link in the description below, as well as my Patreon if you'd like to show your support. And obviously join my Telegram community so you can learn as much as you can. Right? So it's all there to help you out. I want you to be a better trader, to trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. So hope you have a good rest of your day. We appreciate your time. Have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.